Sound amplified.
I can see it from my house. They have lights here. And there's a glow on the earth. Okay, guys, let's start.
All right. Well, good morning. How are you doing? It's a beautiful morning. I know it's a beautiful morning because on my walk this morning, 3 people I encountered on the street all yelled out, "It's a beautiful morning." And I was like, yes, I know. But all those times we kind of laugh and, when we look at the musical where someone bursts into song. Yeah, boy, you know what? Sometimes there are those moments. The impulse to leap into, "Oh, what a glorious morning." I refrain from doing that because there are neighbors that were stray dogs. It seemed the wrong thing to do to start singing in the middle of the street. But boy, the impulse was really there. It really was. It's a beautiful morning. So thank you for coming out. It's a joy to have you all here. Our opening hymn this morning is "Enter, Rejoice, and Come in the spirit of setting the right tone." 361. It's hard just not to bounce on that one. If there's a part of me that thinks, man, if I could just get like a choral group to come to my house every morning and sing that as I'm heading off to work, it would help tremendously, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That might be arranged.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Which will definitely wake everyone in the neighborhood up. Our chalice lighting this morning, which we will all recite together, is in your bulletin. We are here to abet creation and to witness to it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an empty house. Annie Diller, wonderful, wonderful writer. Pilgrim at Tinker Creek is a great book by her. Her going off on her own and living for a while, and it's just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful book. Our declaration of faith, right afterwards, we unite to affirm that love is the spirit of this church and service its mission. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, seek knowledge and freedom, to give service to humanity. And Ed is lighting our chalice, which I failed to do, so caught up in the reading of the chalice reading. So now we are fired up. Thank you very much. All right. That, my friends, is why she's the boss. And it's the one in control. Because someone has to be responsible. So yes. And so now that we are lit up, we can move on to our joys and concerns. If there was something you would like to come up and share with us all, please feel free to do so. A joy you want us all to hear about, a concern you want us all to carry with you. Please come up right now and please share.
Two candles, one for Sarah, my granddaughter, who is trying to get over COVID at college, and then the other one is for our neighbor downstairs who's trying to get over COVID. So to everyone who's trying to fight this disease. Go.
Take a number like
Last week we all brought water in some form or another to acknowledge the life-giving spirit of the water. Yesterday, there was a vigil and demonstration on the Turner's Falls Bridge, to support the life of the Connecticut River, which runs through all through New England. It's under threat with all the dams and the environmental destructiveness that the dams generate, including the pump storage unit in Northfield. It was really encouraging to see many people there. Maybe 50 people showed up. And all the drivers by were honking their horns and giving it a thumbs up. So it was encouraging to see that people care about the river, and that there's still opportunities here to put pressure on the power brokers to really do something significant to keep the river alive or actually bring it back to life. The fish are suffering here severely, and we had another friend that was there too. And it was nice to see that.
Amen. Absolutely.
sort of a simultaneous concern and joy. A little over a week ago, my great-grandson, who is 7.5, broke his leg, dirt bike riding. That's something they do as a family. And you know, you can react any old way to a broken limb. And this kid has just embraced his crutches and embraced he's got a full length cast. And he's smiling all the way. So that's the joy part. And he'll heal well, of course, but just wanted to share that.
So Corey had something to share. She's up on Zoom there. My joy is my family, even though my dad, mom, grandma, Beth, and Aunt Leslie are not with me right now. We are all together. And in our hearts, we are together always.
I will light a candle to that. Amen. All right, if there are no more, I will light one more. Whatever is unspoken. It's lovely to be able to keep the door open, isn't it? That's just a great thing. I like businesses. Some businesses will do that as well downtown. They'll open the front door. Somehow that's just tremendously welcoming to come across a business or a shop or something. And the door's already open. That's great. Our responsive reading is number 568 in your hymnal, which will be in the back. Connections are made slowly. A good lesson in a world where we want everything to connect extremely quickly. You know, we are being trained to want everything immediately. There's a great line in the movie, and I'm in the book as well, that I've just blanked out on. Anyway, the great quote, I'll remember the book later. A mother tells a daughter, you cannot just live for instant gratification. And the daughter replies, instant gratification takes too long. So, and boy, we're just there, aren't we? It's so true. So 568, connections are made slowly. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar.
We real connections, create real nodes, build real houses.
Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving.
Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. A thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside. But to us, interconnected with rapid runs and burrows and layers.
Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen.
Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in.
This is how we're going to live for a long time, but not always.
Every gardener knows that after digging, after planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes.
All right, Mark Piercy, yeah, novelist and poet. And guys, you gotta love something that right off compares you to a squash, a worm, and a rabbit. That's a lot to cram into a reading, isn't it? Very good. Our offer this morning is hymn number 21, and I will let that roll. Okay, Mark, I guess we'll come Wonderful. That sounded terrific. That had really the cadence of one of the old hymns. You know, very, you can feel it in the way it flows and the rise and fall.
That's the first hymn I ever learned.
Oh, really? Yeah.
4 years old.
They stay with you, those old hymns, don't they? They do. I never went to the circus as a child, which is really odd when I think about it, because my parents were real take the kids and do stuff parents. We did all kinds of things. My dad in particular loved amusement parks, and he loved roller coasters. And we would go to any park that had a roller coaster. And my dad, when we were traveling together, he loved the little roadside attractions, you know, the secret mountain or the this or some weird animal or something like that, you know, pull over and pay 50 cents and see the baboon. My dad was all over it. He loved stuff like that. And so we did a lot of kind of things. And traveling one summer, he got fascinated with roller coasters. And so we went like to all these different parks. We drove all the way to Lakeside Park, which I think is in Virginia, Salem, Virginia, because Dad heard they had the biggest roller coaster in the world. Now, we didn't ride it. Dad just wanted to see it. So we drove and looked at it and watched other people ride it. I think if I'd have been a little older, I might have been with me. But he never lost it either. I'll tell you that even after me and my sister had all moved out and gone, my dad and mom still went to Carowinds, which was outside of Charlotte, which was the big amusement park in that area. And it had roller coasters. In fact, it was famous for its roller coasters. And my mom and dad would still go long after we were gone and ride the roller coasters and do the rides. They loved that kind of thing. And so we did all that kind of stuff, but we never did the circus. And so when I finally had kids that were old enough, I took them to the circus. So that was the first time I had ever been, and by the circus, I mean, you know, Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey circus, the circus. There were all kinds of other circuses. Sometimes smaller circuses would come to schools and things like that. But we never went to I never saw the big circus until I was an adult. And I could take my own kids. And of course, I fell for it completely. My whole family did. My daughter and I especially have a love of circus stories, you know, fantasy novels or stories that center around the circus in some kind of way. Yeah. And I think of the language of the circus, it's so much a part of our lives, isn't it? You know, walking the tightrope, keeping all the plates spinning, keeping all the balls into the air, sticking her head into the lion's mouth. It's a 3-ring circus. Polish one that my wife told me about, which I really love. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Which I love, and which, as you would imagine, had a real resurgence in the years 2016 to 2020 for someone. But really, that whole notion, you know, the circus, it's a circus, this is a circus, this place is a circus. And of course, that's wrong. A circus is not chaos and out of control. It's the exact opposite of that. A circus looks like everything's out of control, but is in fact a place where everything is really tightly controlled. It's not a place of imbalance, it's a place of tremendous balance. And so we have this idea of it being a kind of crazy out of control thing, but in really a lot of ways, it's a controlled thing. So I've been fascinated with these things all my life. And so it was really quite a joy a couple of years ago when the circus came into our lives. Now, my son, Casey, we used to go to the Renaissance Festival often. And we took him as a kid to the Renaissance Festival, and he discovered juggling. And he discovered what are called devil sticks, where you have 2 sticks with a 3rd stick that you spin around. He became very good at this and actually joined the Renaissance Festival and toured with them as a juggler and a stick worker. And eventually he got into and actually ordered what's known as a sear wheel. Now this is a gigantic steel circle that you get inside of and you roll around on. It is difficult to do, it's difficult to learn, and Casey taught himself how to do it, and even traveled all around the country, just riding, doing Airbnbs or just the word of mouth couches to sleep on. He traveled all over the country. He wanted to see America, and he often made his money by getting his sear wheel out at the local park and doing tricks on it and putting a little cup out. And he said I could usually make enough to pay for his place to stay that night. So he got really good at it. And then he called us one day and he said, I've joined the circus school. That's another one too. Ran off to the circus. Right? And he said the circus school in Vermont. And we were like, there's a circus school in Vermont? Well, it turns out in Brattleboro, there is NECA, the New England Center for Circus Arts. And he had discovered he got a job working there. And I will tell you now, he teaches sear wheel at the circus school. So he became not only good, but one of the best at doing this. There's some spectacular videos of him. And so that was cool because we would go see him when he was doing things there. And the circus school is this beautiful, high, box-like building that when you go into it, it's just magical because you can see all the lines. It's designed for, and Cirque du Soleil people, performers come there often. It's a place to come and work up new routines and practice and teach. And a couple of, before COVID, they had started doing these monthly gatherings that were sort of like, you've heard of an open mic. This was like an open floor. They would allow you to have space in there to do something. And they would invite anybody, and anybody could do anything. And so partly it was for the circus people themselves to be able to rehearse routines and to try out new things on an audience. But they became quite popular, and there would be 40 or 50 people, sometimes even more, showing up to do these. Some people would get up and tell stories and stuff like that. And it tapped into something that my son and I, Casey and I, had always wanted to do. We had always wanted to do something together, some sort of routine that would involve me speaking and him doing his juggling or something like that. And so we decided these meetings were thematic. And so they were doing one on gravity. And so we thought, oh, that's perfect. He's doing the sear wheel, which is very much about balance and things like that. I said, I'll write up something, and then you work up a routine, and we'll do it as a performance piece at one of the circus gatherings. So we got really excited about it. We did a couple of rehearsals. I told him there's only one thing I want you to do as part of your routine. I said, there's a famous visual that's known as the Vitruvian Man. Vitruvius was a Roman architect who believed very much in balance and proportion in all things. And Leonardo drew an image of Vitruvian Man, which is a man standing like this in a circle, right? You've probably seen it. And so I said, Casey, at one moment, I want you to do that. I want you to rise up standing in the circle when I make a reference to Vitruvian Man. Other than that, you can do whatever you want, okay? So I had this image of me kind of in the middle doing my thing and him spinning around me in his circuit. So we rehearsed it a couple of times. And so the day we were going to do it, he was working with the sear wheel. And part of the sear wheel technique is that when you're rolling down on the ground with these things. And so you have to open your hand as you go down. Well, he got his hand caught under the wheel. The morning we were going to do a routine, and he didn't break it, but he hurt it bad. And so he called me up because we were on our way there to rehearse to do this piece. And so he said, he's like, I can't do it. We can't do it. And I said, well, that's okay. Gravity, is the theme this time. We'll figure out a way to make it work for the next one. We'll do it next month. Well, of course, all of this is happening in March of 2020. So that turned out to be the last gathering that they did like that until now. I don't think they started their things back up yet. So we didn't get to do it. And but I have thought a lot, especially over the last few years, about this idea of forces that work against us and with us, and that we use, and that sometimes we control, and sometimes we don't, and how we react to that. I mean, that's very much our world now. And so I thought I would try to do this for you as a kind of sermon/poem. And so I want to share with you what I wrote for our performance piece. I want you to imagine Casey swirling around me in a giant wheel. And I want to meditate a little bit on this idea of the forces in our lives, how they pull us places and what they do to us, and how we react to what they do to us. So begin with the intro, which I will read to you, that I was going to do the night we did it. How do you keep your balance on a planet that tilts? This is what we turn to circus people for, to teach us how to move on a careening world, how to, with some grace, not look like we're always falling. They teach us how to negotiate gravity. And so tonight, Casey and I would like to present for you a performance piece we call 5 Lessons from Gravity. Lesson 1. Gravity wants you flat on the ground. Gravity is heavy. It pulls us earthward. We feel it on us always. The gravity of who we are, the freight of being human. Our hopes, our dreams, our fears, what we did or didn't do or should have done, what we believe, what we need. Gravity pulls the reins of these things down and down and down. But within every human soul, there is a spirit, a tenacious spirit that rises. Remember, every time you stand up, it's an act of defiance. Every time you reach toward the sky, you are moving against forces that say to you, you can't reach that. You're not strong enough to do that. What you want is beyond you. And yet, we reach, we rise every single day. We rise. And so when I think of that, I think of weight. When I think of that first stanza, so much about what we deal with is what we're carrying. What we're carrying from our past, what we're carrying for what we meant to do, what we're carrying for things that we didn't get right. It can be heavy, lugging all that kind of stuff around. But at the same time, they say that if you want to learn strength, you take your weak muscle and you work it, right? That's what the physical therapist or physical terrorist, as a friend of mine called it. I'm going to see my physical terrorist this afternoon. And what do? What do? They work your weak spot. And they'll tell you, we have to make it strong. We have to make it strong. You have to keep getting. How many times do we use that as a metaphor in life? Get back up. You fall off the horse, get back up. I never got on a horse myself, but I do get the image. Some things you just look at and think, that's a disaster. And so I never learned to ride a horse. But that image, get up, get back up, get back on your feet. And of course, everyone knows that's the toughest thing. It's not the trying again, it's the getting up and setting yourself up to just try again. And so the first lesson is that it's heavy. Great, gravity wants you flat. Lesson number 2, gravity loves spin. Gravity makes rings. It loves to be orbited. It loves to be encircled. Gravity wants you to dance, to be a whirling dervish of life and energy and power. The music of the spheres is swing music, a centrifugal rag set to the syncopated snap of a pulsar. When we spin, we swirl the world around us. With our arms, we spiral galaxies. And when we think about movement and what is possible, about what we can move and what we can do, I think of my wife, who dances constantly. We were joking this morning about being the 2 odd people in the community. Something I think we hold without any real contest. You just have to picture us. I'm walking around the streets practicing my sermons, bellowing. I have noticed a tendency to swap to the other side of the street when I come down. It's okay. It's okay. I need room, but and I talk to myself a lot. I do this a lot, and my wife dances to music only she can hear when she goes walking. So this is the 2 people that some people share the community with. A guy who walks around gesturing and talking to nobody, and a wife who dances ferociously to nothing anyone else can hear. And that's who we are. But that's cool. What is it ferocious? Everyone moves to a different drummer. And it's a drummer very often only you can hear. And you have to work to hear that drummer sometimes, to follow your own path, to go in your own direction. These are always the scariest things we do, because we're afraid of looking weird. We're afraid of looking different or acting in some kind of way that is not, politically correct. What a ghastly phrase. It's politically correct to do this or do that. Who strives to be politically incorrect? Right? It's just, that seems a nobler passion. But really, that's true. And so when I think of gravity in this sense, because what I want to show is there are positive and negative things about the forces on us. And some of the forces pull us out of ourselves. The impulse to move, the impulse to turn, the impulse to swing. It can be scary to do these kinds of things, to dance on your own, to be. My wife's joke was, she was like, when I was growing up, I was always, the only person on the dance floor dancing. She even wrote something about that one time, about I'm the girl who's the only one on the dance floor dancing. And I remember growing up in school, it was kind of thing through the school dances. Everyone did the slow dance because you could hide behind all the other people. But the dances where you had to get up and move out on your own, that was a scarier thing. And I've always admired people who did that. So, lesson number 3. Gravity takes everything from us. The child chasing the ball downhill. Our hand reaching for the fragile thing we will not catch in time. Gravity pulls and tugs and wrenches. It cleaves. Don't leave me, we cry. How can you leave me? We cry. I'm being pulled away, they cry. Something is pulling me away, they cry. Gravity is cruel. Gravity takes. It is invisible, yet there it is. In our empty hands. I think it's hard over the past year for all of us for different reasons when we think about what's been taken away from us. Part of getting older is learning what's been taken away. What you've lost, what you couldn't quite hang on to. There's a movie that I've loved for years, a fantasy movie that was made years ago called The Never Ending Story. And it's a wonderful fantasy about this world where the nothing is taking over. It's just wiping everything out. It's a terrifying concept. And so the story is about these characters who are trying to stop it. And at one point, there's this huge, big rock creature, big giant rock monster. And they're fleeing the nothing, and they come across him, and he's sitting there, and he's looking at his gigantic rock hands. And they ask him, what's wrong? And he's like, the nothing, it came and took them. They look like such strong hands, don't they? And I think, how many times have we been looking at your hands and thinking they look so strong, but they couldn't keep what I wanted to keep? It is invisible, yet there it is in our empty hands. But lesson 4, gravity brings everything to us. When you catch a snowflake on the tip of your finger, gravity did that. When you fall into the arms of your loved one, gravity is there. Every time you look up into the night sky, remember, all that starlight traveled billions of miles just to shine into your eyes. All you can imagine, all you can dream, gravity brings it to you. Gravity is generous. Gravity says, catch a star. Because that is our world so much, isn't it? There's so much stuff is coming at us. It's hard not to believe that we live in what is in many ways an incredibly generous world. The composer Brahms once bragged that during the course of his entire life, 40 years of traveling and going to concerts, during the course of his life, he had had a chance to hear all 9 of Beethoven's symphonies performed. It took him all his life to hear performances of those 9 symphonies. I've got them all on my phone. I can sit down right now and listen to all of Beethoven's symphonies anytime I want to. So there's a sense in which our world is incredibly generous to us. But of course, the flip side of that is it can be overwhelming. The stuff that comes down on us, the stuff that comes down that's sent out, the fallout, if you will, of all the things that are going on around us. You can't escape it. It's coming down from everywhere. It's part of what we deal with, part of what we face, part of the openness of the universe. It's always a bit scary. One of the transitions that happened in astronomy from the 19th to the 20th century was the realization that it feels so much like when you look up into the sky at night, you're looking at a dome. You know, I've always loved planetariums, you know, because you go into this dome that turns into the night sky, you know. And so it's a chilling realization that, you know, that's not a dome. It's open. It's wide open. It's just open as far out as you can see. You know, I think that there's something fascinating and scary about that, about what all is out there, you know. And so the fear sometimes of what is coming at us and what we're going to do with what, you know, as we often put it, what the universe sends our way. And finally, lesson number 5. Gravity wants you centered, focused, an intense creative core. Let the chaos circle around you. You are the passionate heart at the center of the maelstrom. You are the very pulse of the cosmos. In a gallery in Venice, there is a drawing by Leonardo. It's called The Vitruvian Man. Casey there. It shows the human being in balance. In fact, the idea for that image was it was going to be that man is the measure of all things. That's often how it's used and described. As, because sometimes that's the measurement we have, is our own lives. How do you measure achievement? How do you measure accomplishment? How do you measure who you are with other people? With the people that you're surrounded with and the people that you see. And so it's a human measurement for a galactic, gigantic universe that can often be scary. I mean, it often be joked, Carl Sagan and his billions and billions from Cosmos. He wrote an essay that said, the title of the essay was, "I did not say billions and billions." He claims he didn't say that. He said, "I watched the entire cosmos and I never said that." But that notion of the vastness of it is a big part of it too. And it can be intimidating, all of that. But the idea of the human being in balance, this is so much about what we strive for. And this is why I find myself turning to the circus people and the marveling at what they can do. The person on the high wire act, or the triple, the triple somersault. And it really does. It's a testament to how, no matter what kind of craziness can come your way, how much the world underneath your feet is shifting on you, that you can somehow find a way to keep your balance, that you can still stay upright. I think that's one of the things that they teach us. And so I moved in to the final part of it. We want balance. We want to be able to somehow just put our arms out and just like, okay, just take a moment, right? That's what we say. Well, that's okay. Take a moment. Take a moment and back out of it, Oh, but our spinning world is full of unbalanced people. Isn't it just the truth? There are so many who are afraid to rise up, afraid to spin and to dance, afraid of everything they might lose, afraid of everything coming at them, afraid of the fire that burns at the core. And their fear grows to anger and frustration and resentment. And they will roil all of those things into this dark star of negative energy. And they will hurl this dark star at you. They will to knock you off balance, knock you out of orbit, knock you off your path. And this dark star of negative energy almost always comes in the form of a question. You know this question. It's the question they have been throwing at you all your life. And that question is, what? You think the whole universe revolves around you? My friends, the answer to this question is, and is always, yes! It can be scary. Oh, we don't know. But someone once came to Robert Frost and said he wanted to be a poet. And Robert Frost said, well, what are you writing? He's like, well, I don't feel I can write yet. I'm reading and I'm studying and I'm waiting till I get to the book where I know enough to be able to write about it. And Frost is like, you're already on the wrong path. If you wait till you know enough, you'll never do it. And then he said this wonderful thing, and I've clung to it all my life in some ways. He said, we all begin with insufficient knowledge. We don't have all the answers. No one's going to give us the answers because my answers may not be your answers. What I need wouldn't be what you need. You have to go. It's all part of our own personal journey. But I love that. We all start with insufficient information. But I do believe that the universe that circles around us is part of who we all are. One of the great lines from Cosmos, we are all star stuff. We are all, our individual lives is connected. We are connected to the world, we're connected to our universe, but we're also connected to our seasons, to the ground, to our friends, to the communities that we come gather in like this. When we relock ourselves, it's part of that centering. It is so much an important. I know it feels so off balance so often, but we can find a balance. We can find ways. Sometimes you have to reach over to help somebody, and you realize that in helping them stand up straighter, you're standing up straighter too. Between the two of us, we can do it. Between the community, we can do it. Between the things that I do, creativity can help you find balance. Music, being able to play, being able to write, being able to draw, being able to walk outside and feel like you should really break into song, whether you do it or not. That is connection. That is finding balance. And that is one of the great lessons of gravity. And thanks to Casey, who was not here, but was circling me in spirit. And our closing hymn is number 159, called "This Is My Song." I'll have an impulse to just want to conduct that. You know? The jazz critic, Gary Giddens, was once asked, what instrument do you play? And he said, I play the record player. Because he didn't actually play an instrument. And I know the impulse. I once bought a baton so that I could conduct my record player. For the record, I could get through all of Beethoven's symphonies. Never a wrong note. And I could stop them when I needed to go to the bathroom. It was the perfect conductor's job, really. So thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for spending some time here with us this morning. Thank you so much, those of you who are home and are checking us out through your computer. You are still here. And thank you for coming and being part of what we do and how we help each other. Take care. Have a good week.
Mark?
All right.
Yes, sir.
You remind me of one of my favorite Hagar cartoons.
Oh, really? Which one?
He's standing out with his sidekick. He's looking at the night sky. He said, "It just makes me feel great to look at the stars." And the sidekick says, "How come is that, boss?" And he says, "Because I'm so big and they're so small."
You and Casey ever get to do that, let me know.
I will. We're hoping someday to actually do that.
I hope so.
I do too. I do too. I was heartbroken we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I thought it would be cool.
So Barry, those events, those events